The night before our wedding, my mother-in-law called me and said, "If you love my son, you'll leave him at the altar." My fiancé texted, "Let's talk after the ceremony." I smiled, replied, "No need," and forwarded the call recording to everyone. When she walked into the church, every guest turned to stare at her. "My name's Chris, I'm 34, a regular guy, nothing fancy. I work a normal job, live in Charleston, South Carolina, and was about to marry the love of my life, Sophia. We'd been together for 5 years. Things were good, we had a solid relationship. We hardly ever fought and we liked the same stuff. Planning the wedding was smooth, no crazy stress, except for her mom, Helen. From the start, Helen didn't like me. That's not even the right word, she hated me. I could feel it every time we were in the same room. She didn't come right out and say it, but you know how people are, the passive-aggressive comments, the way she'd whisper to Sophia when she thought I wasn't paying attention, the little digs, smiling while she did. For example, the first Thanksgiving I spent with them, she said right in front of everyone, "So, Sophia, when are you going to find yourself a man who can actually afford a proper house?" I already owned a house. Or the time she joked that maybe I should wear a clip-on tie to our wedding because real ones were probably too complicated for me. Whatever, I ignored it for years. I figured once Sophia and I got married, Helen would chill out. I thought maybe she'd back off when she realized I wasn't going anywhere. I was very wrong. We were getting married on a Saturday in a beautiful old church downtown. We'd spent months planning it. Sophia was over the moon. Everything was locked in and ready. The night before the wedding, I was staying at an Airbnb across town with my groomsmen. Nothing wild, we got pizza, watched a game, and tried to relax. I was honestly nervous as hell. Not about marrying Sophia, but about everything going smoothly. Felt like too many things could go wrong. Around 9 p.m. my phone started buzzing. I looked down and saw Helen's name. I stared at it for a second. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. Biggest mistake? Maybe not. I answered and didn't even get a hello. The first thing out of her mouth was, "If you really love my son, you'll leave him at the altar tomorrow." Now I know what you're thinking, her son? Yeah, Helen liked to talk about Sophia like she was her property, like I was stealing her away. I didn't say anything. I just sat there holding the phone to my ear listening. Helen kept going. "You don't belong with Sophia," she said. "You're not good enough. You never were. She's making the biggest mistake of her life. And if you cared about her, if you truly loved her, you'd walk away tomorrow morning. Just leave. Disappear. Let her be free." I didn't respond. Instead, I hit the record button on my phone. I knew better than to argue with her. I wasn't going to change her mind, but if she wanted to go full crazy, fine. I was going to make sure I had proof. She kept talking. "I swear to God. Chris, if you go through with this, I'll make tomorrow a nightmare. I will not sit there and let this happen. I will do everything in my power to ruin that ceremony. You don't understand how far I'm willing to go." Still, I said nothing, just kept the line open. After a while, she realized I wasn't going to argue. She huffed, said, "Think about what I said," and hung up. I sat there holding my phone for a minute, staring at the screen like, did that just happen? I walked into the living room where my groomsmen were. Marcus, my best man, saw my face and asked what was wrong. I played the recording out loud. Everyone was dead silent. Marcus shook his head. "What are you going to do?" First, I didn't know. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Maybe just get through the day and pretend it didn't happen. But that felt wrong. Sophia deserved to know, so I sent the recording to Sophia with a text that said, "Hey, just got this from your mom. Listen when you get a chance." It took her about 10 minutes to reply. She said, "I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. Let's talk after the ceremony." That's when I knew she still wanted to go through with the wedding. That was all I needed to hear, but I wasn't done yet. Marcus leaned over and said, "Dude, you know we can't just let this slide, right?" I agreed. I wasn't sure how yet, but I knew Helen wasn't getting away with this. Our wedding planner, Mia, was already a little familiar with Helen's behavior. When Sophia and I first hired Mia, we warned her that Helen could be difficult, but Mia handled difficult people for a living. She wasn't intimidated. I called Mia and told her what happened, played her the recording. She laughed, straight up laughed. Then she said, "I have an idea. Wedding day, everyone's getting ready. The air is tense. Sophia and I aren't doing the whole see each other before the ceremony thing, but I knew from our texts that she was as fed up as I was. Helen was there early, smiling, acting like nothing was wrong. Walking around like she owned the place, greeting guests, showing off her dress, looking people up and down like she was the Queen of Charleston. I watched her from across the room. She didn't even look at me. I guess in her mind I was supposed to have taken her advice and vanished. Meanwhile, Mia and Marcus were setting things up quietly behind the scenes. We didn't tell anyone else what was coming, not even Sophia. We figured she had enough to deal with, but we made sure the right people were ready and the project was ready and the sound system was ready. Right before the ceremony started, people were settling in. The church was packed, old wooden pews, stained glass, candles, that kind of place. Quiet murmurs while people waited for the music to kick on. Then Helen made her entrance. She walked through the doors like she was the star of the show. I swear she paused just inside the aisle so everyone could look at her. That smug little smile on her face. And that's when Mia pressed play. The speakers crackled to life and then, clear as day, the sound of Helen's voice echoed through the church. "If you really love my son, you'll leave him at the altar." The whole room froze. Heads turned, people whispered. Helen stopped walking. Her face turned pale, her smile dropped. The recording kept going, the threats, the insults, everything she said the night before playing out for every single person we invited to our wedding. She looked around and everyone was staring straight at her. And that Reddit is where things really started. You know the feeling when a room holds its breath? That's exactly what happened. Helen stood there, frozen in the middle of the aisle. You could see her brain trying to work, trying to figure out how to talk her way out of it, but there wasn't a way. The recording kept playing. Every ugly word, every threat. A few guests gasped. I heard someone whisper, "Is that Helen?" Someone else, louder, said, "Oh my God, what did she say to him?" She finally snapped out of it, stumbled forward like she was going to walk to her seat like nothing happened. But Mia wasn't done. The projector turned on next, and there on the big screen we flashed Helen's caller ID and the timestamp, just to really nail it home. Date, time, and her name as clear as day. She spun around looking for someone to blame. She spotted me first. She glared at me like I had ruined her big day. I didn't even blink. I just stared her down. She turned to Sophia's dad next, but he was standing in the corner with his arms crossed, shaking his head. Yeah, she was on her own. Right as Helen sat down, humiliated but pretending she wasn't, Sophia's Aunt Carol stood up. Now, Carol's always been kind of quiet at family events. She never had much to say. But that day she cleared her throat and said loud enough for everyone, "Maybe we should all know the truth, Helen, about why you're really so desperate to stop this wedding." The whole church turned again. Helen looked like she wanted the ground to open up and swallow her. Helen hissed, "Carol, sit down." But Carol didn't. She walked into the aisle and faced everyone. "You want to play games, Helen? How about we tell them about your little habit of meddling in every relationship Sophia has ever had? Or how you tried to pay off Sophia's ex-boyfriend to propose first?" That was news to me. Complete silence. Sophia's bridesmaids peeked out from the back, wide-eyed. One of them whispered, "She did what?" Helen looked around like a cornered animal, but nobody was helping her. Right when I thought it couldn't get any worse for Helen, the back doors of the church opened, and in walked Trevor. Trevor is Sophia's ex, the one before me, the one Helen loved, the one who suddenly disappeared from Sophia's life without warning years ago. The whole room watched as Trevor just stood there. I had no idea he was coming. Nobody did, except apparently Helen. Helen whispered, "Oh my God." Under her breath. Trevor looked straight at her and said, clear as day, "Should I tell everyone why you paid me to break up with Sophia?" Boom, just like that. Sophia peeked from behind the door, staring at him like she'd seen a ghost. Trevor kept going. "I thought about staying away, but you crossed the line, Helen. You hurt too many people. I thought they deserved to know." The guests were whispering all over the place now. Some of Sophia's family looked like they were about to stand up and start clapping. Others just sat there stunned. I saw Sophia step out from behind the doors. She looked calm, but I could tell she wasn't. She walked straight down the aisle right up to her mom. "How could you?" Sophia said. No yelling, no drama in her voice, just quiet disappointment, the kind that hurts worse than screaming. Helen opened her mouth to respond, but Sophia just held up her hand. "Don't. You've been trying to control my life since forever, but this is the last time. You're not ruining this day. You're not ruining us. You're done." Helen tried to stand like maybe she was going to make a scene or defend herself, but Sophia's dad stepped over and put his hand on Helen's shoulder. "No, you stay seated quietly or you leave." Helen's face was bright red, but she sat. For the first time in my life she looked small, powerless, beaten. But just as things started to settle, Mia rushed up to me and whispered, "We have an issue." I thought she meant Helen. I was ready for more of her nonsense. No, apparently while all this was going on, someone in the crowd, someone on Helen's side of the family, had been texting the caterers and vendors, telling them the wedding was canceled. The cake? Gone. The food? Sent back. The photographer? Left. Helen had planned for a plan B. If she couldn't stop me from showing up, she was going to ruin the reception. I looked at Mia. "Can we fix it?" She bit her lip. "I'm working on it, but it's bad." Sophia overheard. "Wait, what's gone?" And that's when I realized this wasn't over. Helen had come prepared. If she couldn't stop the wedding, she was going to burn it all down from the inside. And I wasn't about to let her win.